Now, if you manage to have all the three running, let's continue with the next step. And the next step would be to actually run a collection. So I will go back and configure the job. And in the build section, I will delete all this because I don't need it anymore. And I will simply write Newman run and a collection. So let's grab the same collection that we have used previously. I'll post you a link in the description. And between double quotes, I'll paste the link. And now when I run this job again, you'll see it takes a bit longer. And this is the way how everything looks like. So pretty similar as with the terminal, Newman will download the collection and start executing the tests. And when everything succeeds, everything looks good. So far so good. Now what we should do is to get our collection with an API key, as we did in the previous video. So I still have the link. So let's go back to configure the project. Now we'll replace this with the other style. So in this case, I'm using the Postman API to retrieve this collection, which belongs to my account, providing this API key. And then in the same way, I'm providing an environment as well. And the environment can be retrieved pretty similarly. And I've shown you last time the Newman documentation on how to do that. So this is everything that I have here. Let me save that. And rerun this build. So everything seems to be running successfully. Now the value of Jenkins comes when we actually have builds that fail. So let's go back to Postman, change this collection and make sure that our execution in Jenkins actually fails. So I will simply edit a test here. Status code will be 201. So let's just give this another try. And now you'll see that the build is failing. And in order to see exactly what has gone wrong, you will have to go visit the console output, and you will be given here information regarding which assertion actually failed. Now the problem with this approach is that when you have a lot of assertions and a lot of requests, when something fails, it's a bit inconvenient to go and check the console and see exactly what happened there. And this is why a lot of the tools that run in Jenkins generate a report that then Jenkins can understand, and you will be able to access a report by using the interface. So let me show you exactly what I mean by that report. So we're going to go back to the job configuration. And while this is loading, we'll go to the documentation of Newman again. And one of the important things that you can do with Newman is to configure reporters. And there are different kinds of reporters that we can use. And for our case, we are gonna specify the CLI reporter, and this is what you get by default. But when you specify other reports, the CLI report won't be shown anymore. So we'll specify that explicitly. And we'll also work with a JUnit report, which is usually used for Java projects. But this is something that most of the time Jenkins can understand out of the box and publish. And Newman can generate such a JUnit report, and Jenkins can show it. So this is why we're going to specify CLI and JUnit as reporters. So let's configure the job again. And now you'll see this big string here with a lot of parameters. If you don't like it like that, and I personally don't, what you can do is to introduce a slash here. And after this line, you can just enter a slash. So now we're going to specify the new parameter, and that will be reporters space CLI, comma, and JUnit. Make sure you do not leave any space in between CLI and JUnit. So not like that. We always don't need any spaces. And here is just one space. So it's important to specify it exactly this way, not something like reporters equals or anything else. So reporters space CLI and any other reports that you have, comma separated. And there's one additional thing that we need to configure. And if we go back to the Newman documentation, what we're interested in is specifying where should this report be saved. So if we're looking here at the JUnit XML reporter options, you will see here that there's an additional option that we can specify. And this is the -- reporter -JUnit just export. And we can specify a path. If you don't specify a path, the report will be saved anyway, somewhere automatically in the Newman folder and with a given name. But we want to have a specific one. So for that reason, I'm gonna type in Newman. This will be the folder where the report will be saved, slash, and say report.xml. So once again, we specify the reporters, CLI and JUnit, comma separated, and then we are specifying for the JUnit report where it should be saved. And that will be saved inside the workspace. So let's first hit the save button and quickly rerun this. And now we still have our failing tests, and we still don't have a lot of information what exactly has gone wrong. And for that, we actually have to go to workspace. And inside here, Newman, you will find this report XML that we generated. And by looking at it, you will automatically understand what has gone wrong. No, I'm just kidding. This is just a file that has been generated. You should know where it is so that in case something doesn't work, you know where to find it. But otherwise, you will probably not take another look at it in the future. And by doing so, we're gonna go back to configure. And we'll actually configure this job to publish this report. So Newman generated this report. It saved a file somewhere, but Jenkins still has no idea that such a file has been generated. So we need to configure Jenkins a bit more to understand about it. And for that, we're gonna go to post-build actions. And this is something that's happening after the build, after the execution itself is completed. And this is right before the build. This is right after the build. And we'll be able to add here a new post-build action. And the post-build action we are actually interested in is this publish JUnit test result report. And once you open that, you will be asked where is the path to this report. So I'm going to say here Newman/report.xml. If you specify something that doesn't exist, sometimes you will get an error, but let me just check it. Okay, yeah, so if I don't specify something and I click somewhere else, Jenkins will detect that the path isn't there. So this is why it's kind of useful to first generate a report to make sure that the path is the right one, and then go ahead and create a post-build action. Great. So let's save it again and rerun the job to see how it looks like now. So now if we go, let's just reload the page once. If we go to the last build, you'll be able to see here that a test result has been added. And if you click the test result, you will get informations about failed tests, and you can see exactly which is the test that failed and what exactly happened in the execution. So we'll get more technical details about the test. And if you actually run it a couple of times, and I'll do it right now. Okay, so let's try and get this fixed again. And after a couple of runs, you will automatically get this graph here. So it will show you how many tests have failed from the previous builds, and down below are the number of assertions that you have, and then you have the number of builds. So you see here build number 8, number 12. So now in the build number 12, we don't have any errors anymore. You will always have the possibility of inspecting the latest test result to see what happened there, what are the tests that were sent, and you will see all the requests that we have and stuff like that. So this is what this report actually does. So it, after the test execution, it generates a report that then Jenkins can understand. Otherwise, you will still have the possibility of manually looking at what Newman is outputting directly from the CLI reporter. And this is another way on how you can check if everything is working properly. Great.